I would now like to invite Jill Wyatt, Chair of the Board of Governors of the University of Calgary, to the podium for the installation of our Chancellor.
Good morning. I would like to ask Her Honour, the Honourable Lois Mitchell, Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, and Deborah Yedlin to please rise. Good morning, distinguished guests, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. It is my very great pleasure and privilege to stand before you this morning at convocation and to introduce the 14th Chancellor of our great university, Deborah Yedlin. I would like to start by acknowledging members of her family and friends who are present today at the ceremony. Her husband, Martin Molyneux, her 3 sons, Michael, Alexander, and Daniel Molyneux, her brother, Matthew Yedlin, and his wife, Gail-Ann McClelland. A warm welcome to all of you. Thank you. Last fall, the Senate of the University of Calgary launched a search for the next Chancellor of our university. I would also like to express my appreciation for the efforts of the Chancellor Search Committee, chaired by James McNeil. The committee also included Steve Allen, Susan Barker, Brandon Cave, Jacqueline Engstrom, Eva Friesen, Jacqueline Jenkins, Willem Klumpenhauer, Andrew Mosker, Nuveen Peters, Helen Sunderland, Diane Tapp, and Glenn Tibbles. Thank you for your dedication to the search and for the selection process. In April of this year, the University of Calgary Senate elected community leader and Calgary journalist Deborah Yedlin as our 14th Chancellor. I cannot think of a better advocate to connect our vibrant university to our greater community during this exciting time in our university's history. Deborah Yedlin is a Calgarian who is deeply committed to the importance of education and society. Professionally, she has been observing, commenting, and writing about the nexus of business and politics for more than 2 decades as a journalist for the Financial Post, the Globe and Mail, and Calgary Herald newspapers. In addition to her writing, since 1996, Deborah has also been a regular commentator on business and politics for CBC Radio and Television and CTV. Born and raised in Edmonton, Deborah witnessed firsthand the power of education to provide the opportunity to rebuild a life in a new country as the daughter of immigrants. Deborah is a champion of her community and has served on the board of a number of arts and community organizations. She recognizes the important role that universities play in bringing people together, especially in the dynamic city of Calgary that she calls home. The role of the university's chancellor is to be a passionate advocate for higher education and research. Deborah's experience and leadership will serve her well as the Chancellor of the University of Calgary. I cannot think of a better advocate for all that we do to advance teaching, learning, and research each day. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the installation of Deborah Yedlin as Chancellor.
Deborah Daphne Yedlin, you have been elected by the Senate to become the University of Calgary's 14th Chancellor. This office brings both ceremonial and other duties serving the university and community. Do you swear to strive to uphold the values and goals of the university and to enhance the university's position in the community to the best of your ability? And do you further swear to represent the public interest in the university and to fulfill the duties of Chancellor as outlined in the Post-Secondary Learning Act?
I do so swear.
Deborah Yedlin, I now install you in the office of the Chancellor of the University of Calgary and invest you all the rights, privileges, powers, and responsibilities pertaining to this high office.
Thank you.
A very, very good morning to all of you. I always enjoy being here at the university because it's a particular pleasure to be able to officially welcome somebody I've known for a long time, Chancellor Yedlin, to her role. When you look at everything that she has accomplished, it quickly becomes apparent, as you've heard and you can read in the program, that she is a perfect fit for her new duties. Deborah's career has been driven by a desire to explore ideas, to foster meaningful dialogue and debate, and to ensure that fellow Canadians have the information they need to be thoughtful and engaged citizens. She's combined that love of learning with experience in business and strong community leadership. And I know that she'll thrive here because the school values scholarship and community connections. They value both in equal measure. Chancellor Yedlin, as Her Majesty the Queen's representative, it is my sincere, I have to tell you this, pleasure to thank you for your service to date and to wish you a very successful term leading this great institution. Believe me, it is teamwork. I've watched her in that atmosphere of team as well. I'd also like to offer my congratulations to our wonderful graduates. I know all too well the hard work, energy, and the investment that brought you to this point. So enjoy this moment of celebration with your classmates and with your loved ones. I'd also like to offer a little tiny suggestion as you settle into your career or continue with your studies. As you know, and I spent really 8 days doing this last week, Canadians were united in marking the 100th anniversary of the Great War Armistice. We all saw the horrifying numbers of fallen heroes. I'm sure some of you and your families were affected as well. We received the heart-wrenching first-person accounts of those who served and those who waited on the home front. We came to grips with the terrible costs that Canadians paid in the war, and we also heard countless stories of truly extraordinary service and of great, great sacrifice. Above all, I think we were reminded that the precious gifts of peace and freedom that come with being a Canadian are worth protecting. What I'm really going to ask of each of you, is that you do whatever you can to foster and to celebrate those gifts, whether it's through your career or by giving back to the community. Use your voice, share your ideas, join in efforts to inspire positive change, and above all, be active and thoughtful citizens. It's an approach, I have to tell you, exemplified by our new Chancellor, and it's one that can help you to build a rich and fulfilling life and career. Finally, I do have to say a very, very sincere thanks to our outgoing president, Elizabeth Cannon. You heard what's happened over her 8 years here. She brought great vision, innovation, and direction to her duties. And I know that wonderful Sky High, the impact it had. I felt it. I know all about it, and I can tell you that her contributions will continue to benefit many years to come, Elizabeth, many years to come. Anyway, for all of you, congratulations, and let's enjoy this wonderful morning of celebration. Thank you.
Honored guests, we are joined today by representatives of post-secondary institutions from across Canada. It's my pleasure to introduce them. First, we have Dr. Leslie Brown, Provost of Mount Royal University. Welcome. Next, we have Mr. Brian Haynes, alumni representative of McGill University in Montreal. Welcome. And next, we have Ms. Deborah Pittman, alumni representative for the University of Manitoba. Welcome. And finally, we have Dr. Matthew Yedlin, faculty representative from the University of British Columbia and Chancellor Yedlin's brother. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to invite Chancellor Yedlin to deliver the installation address.
Good morning, everyone. Honored guests, family, friends, graduates, and your proud families. It is incredible to be here with all of you today for this important milestone, yours as graduates, and mine as I begin my official duties as the 14th Chancellor of the University of Calgary. I'm equal parts honored, humbled, and excited to officially take on the Chancellor's role at the University of Calgary, an institution that is preparing the next generation of leaders for Calgary and beyond. I follow in the footsteps of 13 esteemed individuals, including 3 other women, the first of whom, Muriel Kovitz, was also Jewish. It is a role my parents, who were both educators, would be immensely proud to see that I've been chosen to take on. I've always been very comfortable in the university setting, regardless of whether I had a student ID or not. My formative years are tied to the University of Alberta, where my parents both studied and where my mom completed her PhD in Russian history, broke through the gender barrier, and was given tenure in 1975, retiring as Professor Emerita in 1996. I am certain she'd finally be satisfied that the example she set for me as a professional working mother in academia was the right one. I've been fortunate to have had other strong women as friends and mentors throughout my career, from Wall Street to Bay Street, as a journalist, in the context of my community volunteer commitments, all of whom have provided insight and guidance, wisdom, and wise counsel. I'm honored to be standing here today with one such mentor, President Elizabeth Cannon, who is leaving her position at the end of the year. I'm not an engineer. The ability to translate physics into math always eluded me. But President Cannon has set an extraordinary example, not just for me, but for all of us. As a 3-time alumna and the 8th president of the University of Calgary, she is the first woman to lead this university and was the first woman named Dean of Engineering. Dr. Cannon has championed initiatives in Canada to increase the number of women in the STEM fields and held the NSERC Petro-Canada Chair for Women in Science and Engineering in the Prairie region. But most important is the bold vision and strategy that Dr. Canada set for the University of Calgary through the Eyes High strategy, of which one of the goals is to become a top 5 research university in Canada by 2022. I know I speak for everyone here today, Dr. Cannon, when I thank you for your leadership, your vision, and Churchillian tenacity that has transformed the University of Calgary into one of Canada's most recognized, dynamic, and entrepreneurial post-secondary institutions. Graduates, you are equipped with an education that will hold its own wherever you find yourselves as you embark on your respective journeys. Let me tell you a story, because that's what journalists do. When I began working at Goldman Sachs in New York in 1987, I was intimidated by everyone around me. For the most part, my colleagues came from Harvard, Stanford, Yale, Berkeley, Princeton. I was a graduate from the University of Alberta, located in a city called Edmonton, which no one had heard of. When one of the vice presidents who was interviewing me asked, "Edmonton, where is Edmonton? Is it 2 hours outside Toronto?" Instead of telling him it was a 4-hour flight due west, I looked at him and I said 2 words: Wayne Gretzky. "You're from there," he said? Wow. So to those who don't understand what sport can do for a city, let's go with what the great one did for Edmonton, shall we? Now, I was not sure what that wow meant, but I soon discovered that the undergraduate education I had received in Canada was just as good as what my colleagues had studied in their programs at Ivy League schools. We read the same books in English, studied the same principles of calculus and algebra, and that supply and demand curve in economics, well, it's the same wherever you study it. That was an important lesson for me. What counted, and what still counts, is the ability to think critically and apply the knowledge you have acquired during your educational journey. Mine was a BA in English and economics, my Be Anything degree. My English professor, Bob Solomon, who is here today, taught me how to read for meaning and context, to link metaphor and message, and to see beyond the words and plot. And he also taught me how to write a damn good essay, but that took a bit of doing. In other courses, professors taught me different skills, whether in my MBA program or the chemistry lab. I learned to analyze, synthesize, and communicate, skills that I used as an investment banker and more recently as a journalist and longtime business commentator. Those are skills that never lose their relevance. But if you would have asked me way back in my first or second year, what am I studying? I never would have said, I'm learning to analyze, synthesize, and communicate. My answer would likely have been, I'm taking a BA in English and economics. Only as my working life unfolded did I finally understand what my parents had told me, what my studies were giving me the skills to do. It was all about a transfer of knowledge that could be used across disciplines. My good fortune was to grow up in an environment where an education was highly valued, that it was a means in itself, not a means to an end. So when I said to my parents, after finishing my BA, that I wanted to try my hand at the sciences, they said, okay. Their inside voices might have said, you're crazy. Why would you want to do that? You have a perfectly good degree. But they didn't. The filter stayed on, and off I went to take organic chemistry, physics, and biology at Queen's. But it didn't take me long in my journey to realize that it was my brother Matthew, who is on stage today and you just saw, and is a professor of electrical engineering at UBC. He'd been gifted the science brain, not I. But I have never regretted that diversion. The academic collage that I cobbled together has enabled me to inhabit and feel comfortable in many different worlds. You could say this improvised multidisciplinary curriculum driven by my own curiosity and desire to learn was a very early prototype of what the University of Calgary is seeking to accomplish today across the campus through multidisciplinary initiatives such as the College of Creativity, Discovery and Innovation, the Hunter Hub for Entrepreneurial Thinking, CDL Rockies, and Innovate Calgary. The end game is to integrate learning so that you, the graduates of today who will shape the world of tomorrow, are not bound by the traditional silos of teaching, learning, and research. As much as we need curiosity-driven research, we need curiosity-driven learning. The whys and the hows have no limits in any discipline. To each of you graduating today, regardless of your field of study, those two simple words carry with them the tremendous potential of setting you on a path to better understand an issue or a problem and where the solutions might lie. You leave the University of Calgary taking with you the friendships, knowledge, experiences, and memories, and are going into a world that holds many promises. Promises in the context of discoveries in medicine and science, the continued advancement of artificial intelligence and its role in everyday life, the rapid changes in the world of business through fintech and blockchain technologies, and the evolving urban landscape. But it is also a world of uncertainty. Whether in the context of technological disruption or the consequences of one of President Trump's unfortunate tweets, the world of today is one that demands vigilance and engagement. In a world where the media is under attack, where some world leaders seek to silence those who want to tell the truth by the most brutal of methods as a way to solidify respective power bases, where minority groups are targeted because of who they are, where they come from, who they worship, or whom they love, apathy and complacency are not an option. These days, I'm often reminded of the words of a Lutheran priest, Martin Niemöller. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and then there was no one left to speak for me. My parents came to Canada from Poland via Israel after World War II with nothing but their education. But it was their education, which they continued to pursue in Canada, that provided the foundation for a future in this country, their new country. Not just for my brother and I, but for the generation of students they both taught. Whether it was the endless stream of bar and bat mitzvah students coming to the house on weekends, whom my dad taught over more than 35 years, or my mom marking papers and reviewing her lecture notes into the wee hours of the morning at the kitchen table, education was omnipresent in our lives. The message from our parents was simple: as long as you have an education, anything is possible. For me today, being on the University of Calgary campus brings me back to that sense of wonder I had as a child when I would visit the University of Alberta with my mom. The sense of what's possible, about the future. You are all graduating, but I am once again a freshman in my first semester. I look forward to the next 4 years, being part of this great institution and doing everything I can for this campus and the community at large, for students, alumni, faculty, and staff. The University of Calgary has come far in its short history and is pushing the boundaries on teaching, learning, and research, forging new connections with other institutions across the country and abroad, and seeking to solve the grand challenges facing today's society across disciplines. Graduates, your education is your ticket to an exciting future. How you use it is what matters. Don't feel constrained by the letters in your degree. Remember, it's about that transfer of knowledge. And despite what you feel right now, there's no rush. Sometimes finding the sweet spot of where you really want to be takes time. When I was young and impatient, my dad would tell me a story about a man walking to Jerusalem and reaching a fork in the road. He asked a man standing at that fork, "Which way should I go?" The man said, "If you take the road on the left, it is the short road that is long. But if you take the road on the right, it is the long road that is short." I took that long road, much to my parents' consternation at times, but I'm certain it is one of the reasons I stand here today. To the graduates of the University of Calgary's class of 2018, enjoy the journey, don't be afraid to take the long road, and congratulations to you and your families.